Hello, darling grandchildren. This is your Grandpa Ken with a story about science and rocks. Hi there. Here's a special rock called obsidian. It's black and shiny. It looks like glass, and in fact, it is glass. But this glass comes from a volcano. Volcanoes make many kinds of rocks. Volcanoes begin small and they can erupt for hundreds, even thousands of years. Then, when they get old and tired, they stop erupting and they leave a cone shaped mountain behind. Do you remember that I live by a lake? And across the lake is Mount Garcia. It's an old volcano and it doesn't erupt anymore. Mount Garcia is about 15 miles away, past the fishermen, and on the other side of the water. The Colima is younger than Mount Garcia, and it does still erupt, but not with hot lava, or at least not most of the time. It erupts with huge clouds of volcanic ash. I can watch it. The clouds go up into the sky above the volcano, and then they drift away in whichever direction the wind is blowing. The clouds may be visible for an hour. It almost looks like it isn't moving, but that is because it is so far away.
Hi, kids. Your grandfather Ken said I could record one page of this book. Here I go. Even further back behind in this picture and to the right is the Colima volcano. The Colima is much younger and it erupts maybe once a week. It is about 40 miles away. That is farther away than downtown Chicago is from you. But it is a big mountain and I can see its peak sticking up past the right side of Mount Garcia. It is very high, over 2 miles above sea level, so it is quite cold at the top. And on some rare days, it is covered by snow. That is why I took this picture, the Colima with white snow.
At the end of its life, when a volcano is getting old and is about to retire, the eruptions change, and along with the ash, it starts to throw out pieces of black obsidian. You don't have volcanoes in Chicago, so you won't see obsidian in your backyard, but there's lots of it here. The streets in our village are paved with rocks, and sometimes I will see a piece of obsidian in the street, bigger than your dad's foot. The obsidian, I find, comes from Mount Garcia, or it came a long time ago. It doesn't come from the Colima. Quartz is made of two things, silicon and oxygen. Because of the way those two things like to hold hands, quartz crystals are shaped like a hexagon. Here's a picture of a hexagon. A hexagon has 6 sides. You can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you have a magnifying glass and you look at a quartz crystal from the end, you'll see that it has a little pyramid on the top. But the rest of the crystal is shaped like a hexagon. Here's a picture of the silicon, black, and oxygen atoms, red, holding hands. Can you see why that makes a hexagon shape? I said that quartz is clear like glass, and that is true if it's very pure, only silicon and oxygen. But sometimes tiny bits of other things get mixed in. And when that happens, it gets shades of other colors. Here's a picture of a quartz that has a tiny bit of purple color. The purple happens because there's a little bit of iron mixed in. But you can see that it is still a hexagon shape. Here is the quartz that is greenish. It comes from Brazil, Poland, and Canada. Here's an interesting rock. I think it's made up of calcite. Calcite is a kind of limestone. It sounds a little bit like your short name, Cal. Limestone has the element calcium in it, and that's how calcite got its name. If I am right about this rock, the common name is cave popcorn. Can you look at this picture and imagine that it looks like a very large kernel of popcorn? This would be another good time for a magnifying glass if you have one. When you look at the real rock close up, you can see that the clump is made up of a bunch of tiny circular flat disks. The way this happens is that the water is flowing through a tiny crack in a cave with limestone walls. The water dissolves some of the limestone while it is in the crack in the rock. Then, when a drop of water comes out the crack, it just hangs there in the air and slowly evaporates. Evaporate. That is a big word. Think about this. You let one drop of water fall off of your finger onto the floor in a corner of a room where nobody will step on it. At first, nothing happens. The drop just sits there. But if you go back an hour later, the water is gone. It evaporated into the air. If you look very closely, you might see a little round spot on the floor where the drop was sitting. That white spot is from the minerals that were in the water. So that is what happens in a cave. Water comes through a crack in the rock, one drop at a time. Each drop evaporates after a long time, leaving behind some minerals. In the case of the cave popcorn, the minerals grow in little flat circles to make this rock. One more rock for this story. I wanted the last one to be exciting, and this one is. The science name is geode. I think you should learn that name. The common everyday name that somebody made up is thunder egg. You can see where that came from if you look at it. It kind of looks like an egg from the outside. But what kind of bird or animal would lay an egg made out of rock? Since people didn't know, they just called it a thunder egg. But now let's go back to the geode, its real name. I will tell you how it happens to be round. A geode starts out like a big bubble. You blow bubbles sometimes, so you know what that looks like. Except this geode starts out as a bubble underground in some thick mud or clay, or it could be a bubble in hot lava from a volcano. When the lava cools and gets hard, the bubble is left open inside. So now we have an empty bubble underground. What happens next? Do you remember when we read about the cave popcorn and evaporation? Water brings minerals where water goes, and it leaves the minerals behind when it's gone. That's what happens in a geode. Water brings minerals into that bubble, and very slowly, over thousands of years, those minerals form crystals inside of the bubble. These crystals are not calcite, so they're different colors. And during the thousands of years, the water may bring in different kinds of minerals, so the colors can change. They can be quite beautiful inside. Here are some pictures. First, notice that on the outside they're all round or egg-shaped, like the bubble that made them. But inside they can have different kinds of crystals, depending upon what the water was carrying when it flowed into the bubble. Here is one with quartz crystals. Remember, one of your other rocks was a little clump of quartz crystals. Here are geodes that have quartz crystals inside, but with colors. Do you remember that we talked about that? Quartz is mostly silicon and oxygen, but with some trace minerals, it can make very pretty colors. The purple is called tourmaline. It has traces of iron. Here is a geode filled with agate, a kind of rock that we haven't talked about yet. Now, one last thing. I don't want you sitting on your thunder egg because it will give you a sore bottom and it won't hatch into anything anyway.